Hello and welcome to Talking Books. I'm Joel de Villiers. Entrepreneurship is a crucial contributor to the growth of business and the economies on the African continent. On the surface, for non-entrepreneurs, it may look easy when seeing the achievements of great entrepreneurs. But in reality, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride that takes a lot of guts, along with vision, a great idea, determination, and capital. Joining me today is Jaco Maritz, who compiled the book, How We Made It in Africa, Learn from the Stories of 25 Entrepreneurs Who've Built Thriving Businesses. Jaco, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And now you are an entrepreneur in your own right. Tell me a little bit about Moritz Africa.
So our company, Moritz Africa, started in 2010, and we're a media and business information company, not unlike CNBC Africa and its associated companies. And we started with a publication called How We Made It in Africa, which wrote about business trends in Africa. We profiled entrepreneurs and talked to successful business people. And from there, we expanded to managing or contract publishing publications for other people. We do research reports for various institutions, but almost everything we do is aligned to writing about business in Africa or managing media properties and things about business in Africa.
Did this book come out of the website?
Yes, so the book tells the stories of 25 entrepreneurs from across Africa, and it's basically a continuation of the book, but the longer book format allowed us to go into much more detail of the stories of these entrepreneurs than what the economics of online publishing allow for. Like, it doesn't make sense to write a 3,500 word article for our online publication. So the book just allowed us to go into much more detail.
Mm-hmm. Now, you stayed away from the big names like Aliko Dangote and Strive Masiwa and Patrice Motsepe. How did you choose the 25 that you selected for the book?
We had various criteria, but we looked for established businesses, so we didn't profile startups, so they must have already achieved some level of success. Then we also looked for a good geographic and sector spread, so the entrepreneurs are from across Africa, and we also cover a variety of sectors. We didn't want everyone to be involved in food or some kind of tech business. But above all, we looked for entrepreneurs with interesting stories that others can learn from.
Were there any difficulties, any obstacles in the actual compilation and writing of the book?
It was really important for me that we tell these stories in a real and honest manner. I didn't want to portray these entrepreneurs as geniuses without any flaws and for whom everything always went right. And for readers to really get something from the book and learn something from the book, it was very important that we also talked about the challenges that these entrepreneurs faced, as well as the mistakes they made. And therein lied the challenge in terms of just getting the various writers to ask the tough questions, and also for the entrepreneurs to open up about things that they don't necessarily want to talk about.
So was that difficult to get them to open up about those?
Yes, some are obvious, like some people get it, some people understand that the more useful information you give to the media, the more people will watch it, the more people will share it. So, but yeah, some people were more difficult.
Because I think the readers of this book would be, generally speaking, aspirant or young entrepreneurs or people who are already on the entrepreneurial journey who would want to improve their skills as entrepreneurs.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's aimed at entrepreneurs and business people, but also people interested in the opportunities that Africa represents. So there's loads of investors and people wanting to know what's the opportunities in Ethiopia, for example, and through some of the stories, I think they can get some better insight into that.
So let's talk about opportunities on the continent. The continent is seen as opening up as the frontier at the moment to explore. How do you see opportunities on the continent?
If I could maybe take a few examples from the book. So the one would be that in Africa it's possible to be successful. You don't necessarily need a very complicated product. For instance, one of the entrepreneurs, John Kagabo from Rwanda that we profiled, he looked for business opportunity in Rwanda, and he looked for something cheap and a product that is cheap and affordable and used by the mass market. And he thought, what are some of the most basic human needs besides food and shelter? And he thought about hygiene, and he came up with this idea to start manufacturing toilet paper. And his business model was based on the fact that most of the toilet paper sold in Rwanda was imported, and because it had to be transported via road from neighboring countries, this greatly inflated the price of the product. So by manufacturing locally in Rwanda, he could sell the same product or the same quality product for half of the price. I think another...
While we stay on Jean, I think there's a lesson from him as well, is not to move too quickly on a new product while you are still developing your product. So he moved into something different than toilet paper?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, when starting out, they start something, whatever it is, and no business takes off immediately. And then they start to doubt themselves and think, okay, this is not growing as fast as it should, maybe I should venture into something else as well, sort of another side product, just to hedge my bets in case this first thing doesn't work out. And in John's case, what he did is, so he ventured into toilet paper. I think it was a success, but he wanted to grow faster, and he introduced or he started manufacturing soaps and detergents, and it was like a very capital intensive business, and at the end of the day he had to use money meant for the toilet paper business, for the soaps business, and at the end of the day both of them suffered. So he closed down the soap business or soaps and detergents business. And yeah, I think the lesson for entrepreneurs is that when you do your business model, you need to be clear about the size of the market that you are targeting, and if that opportunity is big enough, to stick to one product until it can stand on its own feet before expanding into something else.
So before I interrupted you, you were talking about opportunities on the African continent. You wanted to carry on with another opportunity?
I mentioned there's an opportunity to introduce simple products, but Africa, because of all its challenges, also offers opportunity for completely new innovations. And one example would be Mkopa, which is an off-grid solar company started by Jesse Moore, who's also featured in the book. And to just briefly explain, users can buy the entire home solar kit, which basically powers up your entire home, and it comprises a solar panel, a battery, a light or a few light bulbs, a torch, a radio, even a TV for the more expensive models. And customers pay a $30 deposit, and then the rest, because it's aimed at low-income consumers, so they can't afford the entire product or to pay for the entire product up front. And then after they've paid the deposit, they pay off the rest in daily installments of about 50 US cents, and that price point is equivalent to what they would have spent on kerosene lighting anyway. So they're not spending more money. And Mkopa, if users stop making their daily payments, which is made through mobile money, M-Pesa in Kenya, then if users don't pay, Mkopa can switch off their lights remotely. So there's definitely an incentive to pay. And you would think that this is, it's like a cute business model, but they've really found serious traction. They've sold over 600,000 units in Kenya and Uganda in about 6 years. So it just shows that there's really an opportunity to introduce completely new things on the continent.
Wow. I would like to get to one of the lessons that entrepreneurs can learn from the book. There are many lessons they can learn from the book. And that is the one, it's to determine why you are actually doing the business. I think Ken Njoroge tells it in his story. Could you explain that?
I think when starting out, most entrepreneurs have a rough idea of where they want to take the business, but as real-world realities and the challenges of the business world set in, they sort of start losing focus on that original vision and mission in the battle for survival. But if you don't know where you're going, it's almost impossible to make decisions, and it's also very difficult to pull through the challenging times that comes with being an entrepreneur if you don't know why you are doing what you're doing. So for Ken Njoroge, the original vision remained front and center of everything the company does and still do, even 15 years after starting the company. And he and his co-founders' goal was to build $1 billion business. And the why, or the reason why they wanted to build $1 billion business, was to show that it is possible to build a world-class company out of Africa without political connections or paying bribes. Now you may ask, why $1 billion and not $10 million or $100 million? But according to him, 10 million is not enough, because a few corrupt politicians can easily steal that money. Even 100 million, according to him, can be acquired by guys who stole oil money in Angola or Nigeria. But he says no one can argue that $1 billion company is a world-class operation, and at that size, no one has the excuse to be mediocre in Africa.
Just quickly, he has gone through quite a few troubles in building his company. It hasn't all been sunshine and roses.
Yes, he's one of the entrepreneurs who, he's an excellent storyteller. So he was a lot more open about his experiences, and he talks about in the early days of the company when his wife just had a baby and he couldn't afford diapers for his baby. He struggled to put food on the table. And yeah, it's really a remarkable story.
Sure. Jaco, our time is up. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us.
Thank you.
Just to recap that, my guest is Jaco Maritz, and the book is How We Made It in Africa. Learn from the stories of 25 entrepreneurs who have built thriving businesses. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.